and I'm sure many of you have heard it too. Jack of all trades, master of none. You see, we often hear this when someone takes on a lot or gathers a few successes in various areas, but not quite getting to the top. We see such people, we pass the comment, and it ends there. But I don't know how many of you have heard the full saying. You see, it goes, Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. I don't know about you, but I think we owe Jack a little bit of an apology. We never really gave Jack a chance. But that's just it. I've often wondered why the first part of Jack's life seemed to be what people focused on the most. I've often wondered why the person who could kind of do everything wasn't praised, but was rather thrown that extra bit of shade. So, for the purpose of this talk, I am Jack, and I am a wanderer in the land of success, visiting anywhere and everywhere, seeing the sights, but never getting to stay. But did that bother me? No, not really. Well, at least at first. You see, I had no notion of prejudice concerning this concept of excellence over a wide area versus mastery in one skill. Matter of fact, I rather enjoyed my ability to tumble through life, gaining various honorable mentions in different areas. I really felt as though this was me. It's almost as though I was born without a defined sense of limitation. It's almost as though I was born without much of a panic zone. In fact, I remember when I was 8 years old and I spoke in front of my first audience. The year was 2009. And my mother quite literally dragged me for a week-long leadership program. This program was for kids from 8 to 18, and I was one of only 2 8-year-olds there. Me and my best friend, whom my mother also dragged. Now, fast track to the end of the event, and we just had a session on financial management. Now, the entire auditorium of about 150 plus people were broken up into groups, and we were made to discuss and later share everything that we had learned in this seminar. I think my group thought it would be hilarious to send the 8-year-old up on stage. And so some way, somehow, I found myself walking up on stage, getting to the podium and realizing that I was far too short to even see over it. And that's where the mic was attached. So I found myself being handed a little chair, adding to my embarrassment. So I got up on my little chair. And mind you, prior to this event, the largest crowd I had probably spoken to was a tiny army of 8 to 9-year-olds, otherwise known as my classmates. I was way out of my depth. But I don't think I even registered the thought that I haven't done anything like this before. Because I wasn't panicking, but at the same time, this was still outside of my comfort zone. It was as though I had this entire realm of possibility. And thinking back, I'm sure 60 to 80% of the people there probably knew whether they would panic speaking to a group of 150 plus people or they wouldn't. Those who would panic, or those who knew that this was something that they just didn't want to do, might have objected if they were nominated. And those who felt that, hey, this is okay, would have gone up on stage. I didn't have that. And I then got up on this chair, said in a very curiously passionate voice, I love money. And much like the laughter that I'm seeing here, the crowd just burst into laughter and applause and excitement. I used that excitement to drive whatever I was going to say, and I was able to deliver a somewhat decent summary of what we had learned. That was the day that I learned that I don't have prejudice for new, meaningful tasks. Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm entering into high school. And I walk into class for the first time, and this girl runs up to me, tilts her head, and says, "Are you smart?" And I'm just like, "Okay, hello to you too." And she goes again, "Are you smart?" And I'm like, "No, not particularly." Why? She goes on to say, "We have a system here. The same 3 people take the top 3 spots in academics all the time, so don't even bother." And I'm just like, all right, cool. I think later that term, I was 6th out of 22. And I mean, I did my best, but I wasn't really focusing on it. And this same girl, let's call her girl A, who was probably 14th that term, comes up to me and says, "Ha, I told you so. You can't get to top 3, so don't even try." And I'm like, hold up. I then realized that now is not the time for no prejudice. Now is the time to pick up a shiny new tool that I hadn't really used before. That tool is what we know as ambition. So I use this ambition, and I push hard, and I fight, and the next term, I'm 4th. But I mean, I give it my all at the time. And the same girl comes up to me, I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I think a couple terms later, I was 2nd, but no one even batted an eyelid. Why? Because they knew I could never get to the top spot. And that is because of a new variable, girl B. Now, ladies and gentlemen, girl B has been first in this class for the past 4 years. So everybody by this time had probably rescinded the idea, you know what, I don't need the top spot. 2nd is pretty good. But not Toby. I looked as though that maybe this is also within my realm of possibility. So I remember coming back from one summer vacation, and I get into the class. I see all my friends around the notice board crowding, and the minute I enter into the class, everybody starts cheering. "Oh my gosh, wow." I'm getting high fives here and there. I don't know what's going on. And then one of my friends tells me, "You were first." And I was ecstatic. I was so excited, accepting the high fives. Even the teachers were congratulating me. I felt on top of the world. That was until I turned to meet the most vicious congratulations I've ever received from girl B, who apparently I had displaced to the 2nd position by 1 mark. I never saw the top spot again. Because after that moment of excellence, girl B proceeded to clear me by 20, 30, 40 marks each and every time after that. It was almost as though she was saying, "This is my field, and you have no business being successful here." And though she didn't explicitly say it, she was right. I had no business being or pushing for mastery in this one area, not because I couldn't attain excellence in it. I proved that I could, but because I didn't want to. I didn't feel like it was me to narrow down and focus in this one field. And so began a series of me attaining success in a few areas of my life and not quite staying or sustaining that high level of excellence. But then that's when I began to feel isolated, because I was going ahead to gather these successes and receiving more and more vicious congratulations from people who had arguably worked longer and harder than I did, but had to rescind that top spot, to a jack of all trades who just wandered in, gained excellence, and left. I began to allow these thoughts to enter into me. And a lot of them were beginning to become negative. And I was asking myself, I'm being successful. Why doesn't it feel like it? And that's when I realized that I was the person taking on a lot. That I was the person gathering a few successes in various areas, but not quite getting to the top spot. And all I kept hearing was jack of all trades, master of none. Jack of all trades, master of none. Master of none. And the worst part is that there's so much truth in that statement. Because to attain the title of master, you must have put in hours of deliberate practice. And that is something that I may not necessarily have done to get to that point, that peak of whichever area that I so choose. But it began to feel as though I wasn't successful. Here's why. I believe that society has exchanged success for mastery in one skill. And I want to challenge your perspectives today to say that that doesn't have to be the case. Because excellence over a wide area, excellence in so many skills, is in fact a route to success. And don't get me wrong, mastering one skill is an undisputed route to success, but it's not the only route to success. And so, I want to share with you all a concept that my mentor, Julia Remondino, used for me to help visualize why people don't really like Jack. And this concept theorizes that everybody is born with 3 zones: their comfort zone, their learning zone, and their panic zone. Now, the comfort zone, as you can imagine, is where all your positives are. All the things that you feel you have a natural inclination towards. And I don't know if you can tell, but drawing is in my panic zone. But the learning zone is just outside the comfort zone, and it has a number of negatives because it's still just beyond what you're comfortable doing, but also just before the point where you begin to fully panic and say that I can't do this, or this is beyond me. And then you have the panic zone, which for most of us is that hard no. I don't want to put myself in this space. And what do the masters do? They take the positives in their comfort zone, the skills that they feel they want to push and break all boundaries for. They go into the learning zone, changing those negatives into positives. And then they realize that there's so much more that they can do. So they venture deep into their panic zone and form a focused point of excellence at the end of their panic zone. And this is what many of us have seen to call mastery of one skill. Taking everything that you know and that you're comfortable with and pushing it far and deep to that one focused point until you have earned the title of master. And then you have people like me who also have the same 3 zones, but for one reason or the other, for some predisposition or exposure to certain things at an early age, our learning zone is so vast and so wide that we tend not to even recognize that we even have a panic zone. And because we cannot really see that boundary that everybody overcomes to attain mastery, we often tend to wander around in our learning zone, which is still in the panic zone. We gain these successes. We turn these negatives into positives. We demonstrate our hard work until we reach our version of success. And this is when we have forged an entirely new space, a wide and vast comfort zone of skills and accolades in so many areas. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that success is not simply how good you are, or better yet, how continually good you are at just one thing. I believe that it is a reflection of your determination, your hard work, and your vision for whom you want to be. And just like the masters, such a vast area of excellence can be called success. So I ask you this. Is it wrong to be a jack of all trades? Absolutely not. I think of Jacks as wanderers and maybe masters as campers. And these masters come together and they forge new, prosperous cities in music and programming and so many beautiful things as things that they're really good at and things that they spend deliberate practice to achieve. And then you have the beautiful experience being able to travel to these cities, figuring out what goes on in between, exploring the land of success, because the wanderers are still in the land of success. They go to these cities, they gain their souvenirs, and they're off to the next one. But just because their experiences vary from what society has broadly accepted, they tend not to feel like citizens of success. What does that mean for all of us? Because if success is truly a reflection of your determination, hard work, and vision for whom you want to be, then I believe that Jacks too have a place in this space. I believe that the Jack of all trades is, in fact, a citizen of success, just as the masters are. I want to leave you all with an idea. That even if you find yourself wandering in this land, pushing past your boundaries in so many ways, you too can gain that confidence and knowledge that excellence over a wide area is still being successful. I want to challenge you with the idea that these people who have mastered so many things and have gone into the end of their panic zone to really get that point of mastery is such a beautiful goal to attain. But the world needs both masters and Jacks. And this is not to say that Jacks can never be masters. Because if we can see here, the Jacks can attain the point of mastery if they just push forward. Because after creating that zone, they still have more to achieve. And so, this message is to all the Jacks of the world and all those who are inspired by the Jacks of the world to go on wandering in your land of success. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.